You've seen it, I've seen it. Generative AI is everywhere. It's powerful, it's exciting, and let's be honest, it's also wildly unpredictable. As this technology just explodes into our lives, there's a global scramble happening right now to write the rulebook. So today, let's pull back the curtain and see who's trying to govern this powerful genie.
So, why is this such a big deal? Let's look at a couple of real-world examples to see what we're up against. On the left, you see how just a few simple typos, what's called a text attack, can completely throw an AI for a loop, making it totally misread human emotion. And on the right, that's something a little more sinister, a jailbreak prompt. This is where a user gets clever and rephrases a dangerous question to trick the AI into completely ignoring its own safety rules. Now, these aren't just little bugs. These are fundamental cracks in the armor of AI safety.
And that, right there, that's the heart of the problem. As brilliant as these models can be, they can also be confused, manipulated, and flat-out tricked. It's this core unpredictability that has governments, corporations, and global bodies all racing to build some guardrails, and fast.
So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the unpredictable risks that are making everyone nervous. Then we'll hop over to Europe to check out their new rulebook and contrast that with America's playbook. After that, we'll see how a brand new C-suite role is popping up, look at the global race for AI dominance, and finally, piece it all together into what's being called the governance patchwork.
First up, let's get a handle on the threat itself. When we talk about AI risks, what exactly are we trying to prevent? You know those tricks we just saw? Well, the technical term for them is an adversarial attack. This is any kind of input, whether it's a few typos or a really sneaky prompt that's specifically designed to fool the AI. This isn't just a bug that can be patched, it's a core vulnerability. And it's ground zero for any serious attempt at regulation. Which brings us to our first major governance model, the European Union's Massive AI Act. And in classic EU fashion, they're not just making suggestions. Oh no. They have written a comprehensive, legally binding rulebook that applies to anyone who wants to do business in their huge market. Okay, so what's really fascinating is how this thing works. It's all built around this risk-based pyramid. At the very top, you have unacceptable risk applications. Think government social scoring. Those are just banned, gone. One step down, you've got high-risk stuff like AI in healthcare or hiring, which gets hit with really strict rules. Below that, limited risk apps like deepfakes just have to be transparent about what they are. And at the bottom, minimal risk tools like your email spam filter are pretty much left alone. It's a very logical, tiered approach. The bigger the potential harm, the tighter the leash.
And let me tell you, the EU is not messing around. If you don't comply, the penalties are enormous. We're talking fines of up to 35 million euros, or, and this is the part that gets everyone's attention, up to 7% of a company's total worldwide annual revenue, whichever is higher. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful reason to follow the rule.
All right, now let's hop across the Atlantic, because the United States is taking a totally different tack. Instead of a strict top-down law, the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, everyone just calls it NIST, has created a risk playbook. It's a voluntary framework meant to guide companies, not command them.
The NIST framework is really this continuous cycle. It's all about process, not prescription. It starts with govern, which is about creating a culture that takes risks seriously. Then you map out your specific risks, measure their potential impact, and finally, manage them by putting the right resources in the right place. The whole idea is to be flexible, to adapt, not to be rigid.
So let's put them side by side to really see the difference. The EU has a mandatory top-down law that classifies AI by risk and even bans some uses. The US, on the other hand, has voluntary bottom-up guidelines that are all about creating an internal process for managing risk. They're two completely different philosophies for tackling the exact same problem.
Now, this explosion of risk and regulation creates a whole new problem inside companies. When AI touches literally everything from how you hire people to how you make money, it begs the question, who is actually in charge of this thing?
And the answer is a new face in the C-suite, the Chief AI Officer, or CAIO. And this isn't just another fancy tech title. The CAIO is the one executive who is accountable for the entire picture, how AI is adopted, how it's governed to meet all these new rules, and how it's scaled up safely and effectively across the whole business.
So here's the crucial difference, and it all comes down to ownership. Your Chief Technology Officer, the CTO, they own the tech stack, the pipes. Your Chief Data Officer, the CDO, they own the data, the fuel. But the CIO, they own the outcomes.
They're the single person responsible for connecting the tech, the data, and the business strategy to deliver actual value while doing it all safely and responsibly.
Okay, so we've looked at regional laws and corporate roles, but AI doesn't respect borders, right? So now let's zoom all the way out to the global stage, where nations are trying to cooperate on rules while at the same time competing like crazy for dominance.
A really key moment here was the G7's Hiroshima AI process. Kicked off in 2023, this was really the world's first major attempt at setting up some international guardrails for AI. And it produced two key things: a set of broad guiding principles for pretty much everyone playing in the AI space, and a more specific code of conduct aimed right at the big companies building the most powerful AI system.
And you can really feel the urgency here. As Professor Matsuo Yutaka, who chairs Japan's AI Strategy Council, put it, speed is of the essence here because technology is advancing at such a rapid pace. Basically, the rules have to evolve as fast as the tech itself, or they're useless. But here's the fundamental tension in all of this. Even as countries talk a big game about cooperation, we're seeing the rise of what's called sovereign AI. This is the drive for each nation to control its own AI destiny. Its data, its computer chips, its models, all to make sure that the technology reflects its own national values. It's this powerful push for self-reliance that often runs completely counter to the idea of a single global rulebook.
So when you take all these pieces, the strict European laws, the flexible American guidelines, the new corporate roles, the international agreements, and you put them all together, what does it all add up to?
The World Economic Forum calls it a whole-of-society approach, and it means you don't just start from scratch. First, you harness the past. You use the laws we already have on privacy and intellectual property. Then you build the present by getting government, industry, and civil society to actually talk to each other and collaborate. And finally, you plan for the future by investing in expertise and building those global partnerships. It's about using every tool in the toolbox at every level.
And this brings us to the key takeaway, the big idea for today. There is no single global rulebook for AI. It doesn't exist. Instead, what we have is a governance patchwork. Think of it like a giant quilt being stitched together in real time. You've got pieces of hard law from the EU, flexible guidelines from the US, internal company rules, and threads of international agreements all being woven together as the technology itself just races ahead.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? We are literally building the plane while we are flying it, stitching this patchwork together at incredible speed. But as AI continues to get smarter and more powerful every single day, the one central challenge remains: can our rules, our frameworks, and our governance truly keep up?